With all due respect, sir, I believe this is going to be our finest hour. Welcome to Primary Technology, the show about the tech news that matters. It's Apple's 50th anniversary. There was a behind-the-scenes look where the Wall Street Journal got to see early prototypes in an interview with Tim Cook. We'll talk about that, plus Jason's article, my video about Apple's 50th, the Mac Pro officially discontinued. You can change that weird Gmail address you might have created in college finally. Claude leaked a bunch of code. The Studio Display XDR got a price drop. AirPods Max 2 reviews are out, and a ton more. This episode is brought to you by Granola, Framer, and all of you, the members who support us directly, which increased a lot last week. We'll get into that. And I'm one of your hosts, Stephen Robles, and joining me, my friend Jason Nathan. How's it going, Jason?
I'm pushing through, Stephen. I'm pushing through for our audience. It's touch and go, but I'm pushing through.
We're a mess this week. For number one, I got a little bit cold. Jason's got a tooth thing going on. Do you have your ice pack there? You should
I have
put
my
it on
ice pack. I probably need a
Jesus.
root canal, but my dentist won't see me until after Easter. And so in the meantime, drugs and ice. Right before we started recording, I took this thing off my face, and my face was like red.
I might make that the thumbnail. No, don't do
that to me, Stephen. Don't do that to me.
All right, I won't do that.
But I do think that you're not supposed to apply this directly to your skin. Like, it's a little cold, but I don't care. I needed to numb my face as fast as possible. So
listen, numb your face. I am obviously not in my studio, and so if you're watching this or if you're listening, we're going to get into that too in a minute, watching, listening, and all of that. I'm in Titusville because yesterday I witnessed the Artemis II launch with my own eyeballs. And I have something else tonight that I'm going to in relation to NASA. And so that's today's bonus episode. And so you can go to join.primarytech.fm, use promo code IWANTCHAPTERS, and we're going to talk about that too. Don't worry. But yeah, we're going to talk about me being here in the Artemis II launch. But we have a ton of stuff to get to. Do you know what quote the Artemis II launch is a clue?
Wait,
you know
what was it? What was the
With
quote
all
again?
due respect, sir, I believe this is going to be our finest hour.
Oh, that's Apollo 13.
Nailed it. Of course.
Yeah,
I had to
come
do a space. I had to do a space
All right.
movie. Had to do a space movie. All right, we have a ton of 5-star reviews. Thank you all for that. So I'm going to go jam through them real quickly. NNJ Comp Guy from the USA. Loving video on Apple Podcasts. Okay, again, we're going to talk about that. Ike Golden from USA. Found us from a 9to5 Mac article about video podcasts. I thanked Zach Hall and Chance specifically for including us in their article. Jamie Huffman from the USA. She's a rock star in my Shortcuts community. Thanks for that. Harry Four from the USA, one of his favorite shows, and subscribed, supported the show. Enjoyable show listener from the USA, traveling between Bellevue and Palo Alto. He listens to us and also asked us to do a Linux shout out. And I don't know if we've ever mentioned Linux on the show. I'll be honest.
I
Jason.
think we've listed it as a thing that exists.
It is a product in our lineup. Not really. It's a thing that exists.
My son keeps asking me about Linux, and I'm like,
Really?
I don't know, Mac OS. Because he's reading stuff, and I was like, that's what all the servers use. And he's like, okay, well, do we have any servers? I'm like, stop. We're done. I showed you my PowerBook G4 Titanium. This is as far back as we go.
That's it. We're not going any further. I did used to work with an Xserve. Did you ever deal with an Xserve?
I mean, yeah,
server?
sure.
Yeah?
It wasn't running Linux.
Well, no.
It was running Mac OS server, but yeah.
It was a server. The thing was so heavy. Anyway, the French Menace from the USA, and we did get some streaming stick things here from our listeners, so we'll be going into that. But the French Menace uses Apple TV, but isn't happy about it. Feels like that's one of the worst products in Apple's lineup. I will say it has not been upgraded in a while, and he hasn't experienced.
What
He
does it
says
need to
it's
be
slow.
upgraded?
I want it upgraded. It can always be faster.
Wait,
Why?
what does it need to be faster? Do you want the Netflix shows to stream faster? Do you want to get to the ending of
I don't
Shrinking
know.
Series 3 faster? What do you
It's
mean
not my
faster?
job. It's Apple's job to figure out how to innovate this stuff.
What does it
Can't
need to be
innovate
faster?
anymore. Anyway, let's go to the next one.
It's got an E16 Pro in it or something stupid like that.
Put an M4 in there. Put an M4 in there, cowards.
It will
I don't know.
melt your
No,
wall.
they could put an M4 in an iPad. They could put it in an Apple TV. It's thicker. Anyway, also he uses iPhone Air with battery percentage off. I feel like that's like the pro move. That's like, you don't have anxiety because you use an iPhone Air and no battery percentage.
No offense, but also you don't leave the house. Let's just be honest.
Oh, man. Lost Under a Mine from the USA had Fire built into his TV, so had Amazon Fire, but then got an Apple TV. Alexa still gets confused, they said, because they'll talk to the TV and sometimes it'll just go to the Fire TV, which is probably just Amazon doing that, on purpose. Duck King 7 said 5 stars, flawless, greater than great. He said, I think it's a quote. I forget what he said that was from, but Apple TV 4K, of course. MGerm89 from the USA, Apple TV. The Pi 13, he gave us 4 stars, but he had thoughtful comments on the chapter situation. And so I appreciated the 4-star. And usually we only give shout outs to 5-star reviews, but thank you for your comments. And we're going to get into that in a second. Horizon Flyer from the USA, Danny Caldwell from the UK. We're a feel-good tech show. We're a feel-good tech show, Jason. There you go.
I don't feel very good right now, but it's
No,
going to be a good
no.
show.
But we make other people feel good. That's right. Matt from Semaphore, Australia. And so we have lots of Australia listeners, which is awesome. But he said spatialized stereo toggled on or off with AirPods. Is that a setting for AirPods?
Yes, but definitely off.
Yeah, I think I turned that off.
I think you mean spatialized like audio, right? You can.
Right.
There are like 3 different settings. Off, which is the only acceptable setting. There's like the head tracking, and then there's like the fixed one, which is I think maybe what this is referring to. And I hate all of them except for off.
Do you have head tracking on or off?
No, I don't use any of the spatial stuff.
You don't even do spatial audio?
Absolutely not.
Even for like watching movies and stuff?
No, that's not the way that the thing was made.
I mean, if it's Dolby Atmos with surround sound.
That's not what spatial audio is giving you. Come on.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. I mean, I could understand it if you're watching a movie. Fine.
Yeah.
With AirPods on. But if what you really want is a surround experience with it, you should probably be using something other than AirPods.
I know, but if you have, if it's late at night, if I'm watching something. Yeah,
I'm sleeping late at night. It's fine.
I know. I do not have head tracking on. I leave head tracking off. I don't like the idea of if I'm listening to a podcast and I turn my head and then all of a sudden both people are in my right ear or whatever. So yeah, I don't do that. All right. So last week it was our first official video episode in Apple Podcasts. And we had a bunch of people sign up to support the show because we're running a crazy deal. Many people just wanted to support the show, which is kind. Some people didn't take the coupon, but then started supporting the show. So signups were through the roof. And so we really appreciate that support. And back to the 4-star review from the Pi 13. You know, he had a good point saying that chapters is something we've had for a long time and now seems like we're putting that behind a paywall. And one of the I did make a mistake last week. One of the mistakes was when I create a new episode now for our podcast host, I can still embed chapters in the MP3 file that's distributed to third-party apps. It's like Overcast and Pocket Casts. And I forgot to do that, didn't think to do that because I'm having to work with Transistor on the video side, and it's a very manual process. So I added those chapters a few days later. And I will make sure that those are there right now. So if you listen to the show in Pocket Cast, Overcast, Castro, all of those third-party apps, get the MP3 file that I will include, and you'll have chapters. And so that's number one. Number two, I have no option in Apple Podcasts to do that same thing as far as having the chapters that you can actually navigate like you're used to. But I have one concession. In the bottom of the episode show notes, I'm placing timestamps, and those appear in Apple Podcasts. They don't cut off my show notes anymore. And those are actually clickable. They're tappable. So even if you're on iOS 26.4 in Apple Podcasts and you're seeing the video, but you don't want the video, and so you turn it off and you're listening to us, if you go to the show notes for this episode, you'll see all the chapters down there in the notes with the timestamps. And if you tap any of the timestamps, you can tap play, and it will jump to that point, even in the video. It is not as good of an experience. It is not like how chapters were. I've heard that chapters should be coming to even the video side in the future. I don't know how long that is, but I'm literally doing everything I can to put the chapters there. So they'll be in the description. You'll be able to tap it there. And there were a lot of people who reached out who support the show directly in Apple Podcasts using Apple Podcast subscriptions. And they're like, hey, I didn't see video. It's like, yes, because Apple has not given me a way to deliver video to paying subscribers. So unfortunately, those who support our show directly in Apple Podcasts have the worst experience of anyone because they don't get
chapters or video.
They don't get chapters or video. And I'm really sorry about that. I literally can do nothing about that. Apple has no way to upload video for subscribers. And I've included chapters in my MP3 for subscribers forever, but Apple strips those out, and there's nothing I can do about that. So I apologize. If you support us on Apple Podcasts and you at least want the chapters and chapter art that I do, if I know a lot of people like all their subscriptions in one place, and so they keep it in Apple, totally get that. But if you want to cancel that subscription and then sign up for half the price at the link that's at the top of the episode description using promo code IWantChapters, you'll actually get legitimate chapters. And I do want to mention you can add our memberful feeds, which is how you support the show outside of Apple, to the Apple Podcast app. You don't have to use a third-party player or some weird player. Like, you can literally, you'll get a link to add our subscriber show to Apple Podcasts, and you'll get to listen with the chapters and everything. And like for the Pi 13, anyone who's really upset about the chapters in Apple Podcasts, please reach out to me via email, podcast@primarytech.fm. But the chapter timestamps will be in the episode description, even on iOS 26.4 via video, so you can tap those there. Third-party podcast players will get the chapters still because I can put it in the MP3 file, and the promo is still going on forever. And to be clear, when you click the link in the show notes for this episode, anyone can do it, and you support the show, it's $2.50 a month or $25 a year forever. That coupon code is applied forever. It's never going to go away. It's weird, the sign-up process, it shows $50 as the price, and it's like the renewal price is confusing, but trust me, it's $25 a year, $2.50 a month forever. But you had a thought.
I just wonder if anyone at Apple on the podcast team uses the app or listens to podcasts, because their incentives seem very different. They have created a thing they think is great, but it only is great if the thing you are being measured on is, let's get some dynamic ads inserted into these podcasts so that we can be taking a rake. And they're just making it terrible for everybody else. And that's unfortunate, but it makes me think they don't use this stuff.
Well, the unfortunate part is the biggest shows who they're trying to cater to, like Call Her Daddy or the comedy shows. Like, I think it's telling that if you go to the Apple Podcasts video feature section, like they have a whole section of shows they're featuring. This show wasn't featured, but Movies on the Side was, which was hilarious.
This show, which is one of the first big, like reasonably, no offense to Movies on the Side, but this one's a little bit bigger. And we also produce an episode every week.
Movies on the Side is a fraction of the audience of this show. But I did wonder if, because our last episode was titled, Here's Why Apple Maps Ads Are Bad, maybe that's why they didn't feature us, because they didn't want that episode showing in their video featured section. But anyway, the shows that they are highlighting and the shows that are doing video are the biggest shows who, one, never did chapters to begin with, two, probably came from YouTube and other platforms, and those, like, they're just not...
They're not podcasts also, just to be clear.
We don't have time to get into that.
They're YouTube shows. I'm just being like, it's just, it's fine. It's like Apple, but I mean it sincerely. Apple has been, in general, very good to the podcast industry by basically doing nothing.
Exactly.
And as soon as they start doing things, they're making it worse. Like, I think you can make that argument. And I think, like, I'm glad we were able to take advantage of it. But the point that was made where it's like, we now basically put chapters behind a paywall. Not exactly the case, but we didn't put them, like, we wanted to add a feature for people who would enjoy doing that, and Apple is making it impossible to continue to provide the same kind of great experience. It is insane that you'd have to go to like one app if you want chapters and artwork, and then a totally different app if you want to switch between the video and the audio. I don't know. It's just kind of wild.
I don't know. I apologize if this is really upsetting. Again, email me and I will try to do something for you. But at the very least, timestamps are in the episode description. Tap them there. Third-party apps get chapters, or support the show with that deal at the top link. All right. We want to get to some content, but I do want to show off just a couple more images because we had wonderful listeners write in. You know, we ask where you listen and where do you watch the show. And let's see. This first one was from Jason in the community at social.primarytech, listening to us on CarPlay. Look how wide that screen is. That is wild. I'll put that, that's pretty cool. So Jason listens to us in the car, and on his drive, it has a 3.5-hour drive each Monday morning and Friday afternoon. That's quite a commute, but listens to us. That's fun. Thank you for doing that. Craig listens to us walking in the Hollywood Hills, and that's a pretty view there with the mountains in the background. Super fun. And then Chris P. watches us on his 77-inch LG TV. We might have the same model. And can I just say the feet on those TV are dangerously close to the edges.
Yeah, you got to take that picture down. Take it down. Take that down.
Take it down. Kick it to the window.
I do like the little HomePod stand over there.
HomePod stand is nice. Yeah, a little like bamboo.
Is that a HomePod or is that an Alexa a dot?
I don't even know now. I'm not sure. It looks cool, whatever that stand is.
Send us a message.
Tell us what that is. Chris P, tell us what that is. Also uses Apple TV, obviously. Oh, and has another picture here. Look, our medieval knight riding a polar bear got it to the interpretive trail, Green Springs Interpretive Trail. So there we go, making around the world. And we also got some other streaming sticks from Theo said he uses his PS5 as a streaming stick. So there you go. We have one not Apple TV. PS5.
Yeah, just to be clear, this is what I predicted. I agree. Apple TV by far the best. There's no way it's the most popular. It probably is among our audience. That's what you would expect, but it's definitely not the most popular.
Fair enough. All right, and last two things. Wanted to mention a really nice email from Brandon S. He sent it to us about the show. Thank you for that. And then 2 apps. We've been shouting out apps from developers who reached out. One, this is Haptic. It's a haptic app by developer Olivier. Actually discovered a accelerometer in some MacBooks, and so he's built this app that you can actually mimic key sounds by velocity, and the intensity and the sound will change depending how hard you're typing. And so you can try out that app. That's pretty cool. I also put some promo codes that he included in the show notes. First 5 who get there, then those promo codes will be gone. So if they don't work, it's probably because somebody already used them. And then Henrique, a developer from London, listens of this show, and he made Beam Browser. And this was featured by, I think, Christopher Lawley and others. And it's looks like a pretty great browser, $6. And you said you downloaded it to try it?
Yeah, I downloaded it. I've been using it. I got to a point, I did this last night when I saw that this was in here. It's great. It's nice. It does do the thing where your tabs are all vertical, which I do actually like. I have when I use Brave, I use 2 different profiles. One, I have horizontal tabs. One, I have vertical tabs. And the reason I do that is, well, one, the profile with the vertical tabs is like way more. There's so many more tabs. And if you have a lot of tabs open and you need them open for whatever reason, it's so much nicer. And then it also is easy for me to be like, oh yeah, which group am I in? Which kind of work am I doing? And this is nice that it does that. The only thing I realized that's a bummer is that while this is a great browser on the iPad, everything else about the iPad really just wants you to open an app, because you like type in asana.com and it tries to open the Asana app. You type in Google Docs and it's like, don't you think you should be using this in the app? And I'm like, the iPad, man, the iPad.
Well, we're going to talk about the iPad. Anyway, Beam Browser, we'll link to that in the show notes. Can I just say, I literally delete apps when it's something that I want to open in the iPad browser. So like I deleted the Google Docs, Sheets, and Slides app from my iPad.
And every time at the bottom, it'll say, don't you want to download this app? And you're like,
I know.
No,
so
Google,
annoying.
I'm good. Thank you.
And then it also like hijacks some of the clicks. Like if you try to like, I don't know, Google Docs on the iPad browser.
It won't let you do certain things. Like in the when it shows the thing at the bottom and says, wouldn't you rather do this in the app? You can't tap on it, or you can't like,
right.
There's certain things you can't do. It's like,
well, there's certain things you can't click with the trackpad because
that's what it is.
Like,
you're right.
You have to tap with your finger because it's weird. But anyway, it was Apple's 50th birthday yesterday as we record, April 1st. Unfortunately, it is like April Fool's Day, and companies are still trying to do weird things. Which I thought we were done with this, Jason. I thought companies would be done with April Fool's stuff, but apparently not. But I didn't see anything super egregious. But being Apple's 50th, you wrote an article. I'll include it in the show notes. I also did a video about Apple's 50th, and I even talked about the Knowledge Navigator. I also went through a bunch of like old keynotes, and I have clips from Steve Jobs announcements and different things like that. So, of course, the 1984 ad. We will include the video and then Jason's article about Apple turning 50 here. But one interesting thing, we'll talk about the Mac Pro dying in a second because that is also part of this. There was a Wall Street Journal interview where Tim Cook was interviewed by columnist Ben Cohen, and it was like a behind-the-scenes video. I use the term behind the scenes loosely because it's like this was very much a scene. Like this was very much staged and set up. But Tim Cook actually showed some early prototypes of things like the iPod, the iPhone, the Apple Watch. Prototypes that have not really been seen before, which is pretty cool. Also, Ben Cohen brought the article of the first time Apple Computer Inc. was mentioned, which is really cool. And also the first time Tim Cook, I think, was mentioned in a Wall Street Journal article. So he brought some cool stuff. I encourage you could watch it for the prototype specifically. And we're going to celebrate Apple and its 50th in a minute. But I just have to say this interview, juxtaposed with all the clips that I had just watched of Steve Jobs getting my video together for this week, it was such a stark difference of charisma and like Steve Jobs on stage just bringing so much oeuvre to Apple and everything he announced. And Tim Cook in this interview, it is very canned responses, as you might expect. but I feel like Jobs did not give canned answers, and he was able to deal with questions on the fly. He was very adept at that. And there were a couple times where they asked Tim Cook. Apple's had a lot of great successes over the years. What were Apple's biggest failures, or what was Apple's most important failures? And Tim Cook gives the answer of like, we have failures, but the important thing is with that we get up again. And it's like. Is this a Smash Mouth song or whatever that is? Like why can't just be real? And then at one point he asked Tim Cook about looking to the future, Apple's next 50 years. And Tim Cook gives the answer of, we always want to be at the center of the technologies. And he almost said primary technology because that's, where we get our name. But he says we want to be at the intersection of hardware, software, and services. And when I heard him say that, it was like when Steve Jobs would talk about that, he would talk about the intersection or at the corner of liberal arts and technology. And I mentioned that in my video, which I feel like is Apple's ethos. And when you say to be at the intersection of hardware, software, and services, it sounds like the accounting and business answer, not the creative answer that Jobs used to lean on. And whether I heard Jason Snell talk about Apple on the Vergecast. Jason Snell was on a special episode of that with David Pierce. Jason Snell's like, listen, Apple has always been a company, publicly traded, focused on profit, and you have to think of it that way. And totally get that. Yes, it is. But I also, whether it was trickery or the reality distortion field of Steve Jobs or whatever it was, when I watched those old keynotes of Jobs when I was getting my video ready, and he talked about liberal arts and technology, or he talked about that the Mac is for empowering people to be creative, you believe it. I believe it. And it sounds like it is the ethos of the company, and that's why they're making these products. And they made but they popularized the graphical user interface with the first Mac so it would be more accessible to more people. And I was like, this is such a stark difference. And it also felt like Tim Cook had never seen these things before. Tim Cook had never seen these prototypes.
Well, he said he'd never seen some of them before. And it's funny because he's like, we don't have a museum here of this stuff at Apple. I'm like, it looks like you're literally walking through a museum right now. Like, I've been to the Lego corporate museum, and it's like this. Well, it's actually,
this is it.
It's a little more Lego than this is. But I'm like, you are walking through a showroom of a thing. This is the thought that I have. You put this in here, you're like, Tim Cook is not charismatic or whatever. I'm like, he just watched the Wall Street Journal video because I had just watched it. And I almost texted you. I was like, I'll save it for the show. Tim Cook's response to so many of these things is exactly what ChatGPT would tell you. Like Tim Cook, the reason I think in some ways we're like, oh, where's your charisma? Is it's like, no, you sound like a walking LLM. You have a lot of like he said, do you remember the first song you listened to? And he goes, it was probably something from the Beatles, maybe Hey Jude. I'm like, first of all, I don't want to say this definitively, but like, I am pretty sure no one remembers the first song that they listened to on their iPod.
I know,
that just feels like it's the answer he should give, right? It's like, I remember getting an original iPod. I remember a lot of things about those devices. I remember like the joy of loading songs on there and being able to go out for like a run and have them or a bike ride. Like but I don't remember the first song I loaded onto my iPod and listened to it. Are you kidding? Like it also... How did he get Hey Jude on his iPod? Because it was a long time before he had to rip it into iTunes for that to be possible. Because you couldn't like the Beatles and Apple didn't get along for a very long time.
Right. Paul McCartney was at the Apple 50th celebration at Apple Park on Tuesday evening, I think, March 5th.
Yeah, I don't know that it was ever Paul McCartney that had the problem. I think maybe it was some other people involved with the Beatles. But
it was also like the questions that Ben Cohen would ask him about like the iPhone. It's revolutionary. What is the lasting change? Or, about the Apple Watch. As they ask him all these like deep questions, there just wasn't anything inspiring, I think I would say. And I feel like anytime someone asked Steve Jobs a question, even if it was a pointed question, I still remember there was a clip of Steve Jobs and he was speaking to some crowd and someone stood up. I don't know if it was about JavaScript or something, but some guy asked a pretty altercation type question, like really challenging Jobs on it. And Jobs turns it around, makes the audience laugh, actually says an answer that addresses the question, but also like points to a higher ideal. And I'm like, I missed that. That's all.
Yeah. When I was at 2 times now that I've been at NVIDIA keynotes with Jensen Huang, he keeps talking about physical. That was a weird sound. He keeps talking about physical AI, and what he means is autonomous driving and robots. And to me, he's talking about Tim Cook. Like, Tim Cook is a physical manifestation of AI. And I'm not trying to be mean. What I'm trying to say is, like, there was no, even when he tries to be like joyful and he talks about it, you don't feel like he has a connection in the same way to these products. He has a tertiary connection because he's leading the company that produced those things. And to be fair, at the time, like, he was involved in making them be made, but he wasn't involved in the design part of them, right? He was the iPod, the iPhone, obviously, like the entire supply chain for the iPhone, but he wasn't intimately involved in the decision. So when he talked about how the prototype versions were getting scratched up because they had a plastic screen, and they decided to do a man on the moon initiative to change it over to glass, and they had to do that in 6 months or whatever. You feel like he didn't feel that from a perspective of the feel and the experience of the product. It was like, crap, I got to call Corning, and then I got to get a bunch of stuff shipped over to China. Like, you know what I mean? It's like, it's a very different experience. And that's like, I don't begrudge the success that Tim Cook has had. Yeah. But it does just feel like these are the most down the middle, like neutral. I'm going to just say words with a smile that make you feel like good about it, but I'm not actually saying anything. And Tim, I mean, to be fair, Steve Jobs could do that. He could, but you felt like he said something. He didn't. Right. But you felt like he did. He would make you feel like he'd given some kind of an answer, but like, it's just a very different experience.
And obviously he's a genius business and operations, and that's why Apple's a $3 to $4 trillion company now. But watching the past keynotes of Jobs, like during the iPhone keynote, when he does the slide to unlock on stage for the first time, and then he literally says, like, let's do it again, because that's just that's so cool.
Yeah.
Like, you genuinely believe that he thinks it's cool, and he knows, and this is why, months ago we talked about what is a product CEO, and I tried to explain it. That moment, I think, also exemplifies that Steve Jobs was a product CEO. Like, he knew that people doing that slide to unlock, that tactile feel of the sliding thing across the screen, would resonate with people, and people would immediately form a connection to this device. And he knew that, and he knew how people would connect to this stuff. And so moving on from that interview, in my video, I kind of had a thesis, and I started from here, and then this video kind of is not doing well, so it's like whatever, but maybe I didn't package it well. But my thesis was that the iPad is the most Apple-y device because, for reasons. But I'll mention, there's a video from This Is E, Great Tech YouTube channel. He talked about how the iPad is like Steve Jobs' oldest story or whatever. And so he kind of agrees that the iPad is the most Apple-y product. And even John Siracusa on the latest ATP, they talked about Apple's 50th. Even he mentioned that the iPad is kind of like the device that Jobs wanted to make, the computer that resonated with people the most and was most accessible. And so that was my thesis. And I'll hear if you take issue with it in a moment. But not only do I love the iPad as a device, but I do think, one, what Steve Jobs did in so many keynotes was explain why things were whimsical and why they would be delightful to the user. And I feel like the iPad still has that element. Macs are great. They're beautiful in their own way, but they're very utilitarian. Maybe AirTags and AirPods also have that. But when you hold an iPad Pro that feels impossibly thin and it's impossibly powerful, it still feels like there's this whimsy and delight to that device. It is accessible. It can be used by all ages, kids to the elderly. And while that does cause some issues, like with the browser, because when you're a power user, you're like, why doesn't this browser do what my Mac does, even though Apple says this is a, quote, desktop class browser. That
does not mean a desktop browser, by the way.
Right. It does not, I know, but it's clearly not desktop. But then also, it's that whimsy, it's the accessibility, and it's for, I forgot what my third point was. But anyway, I feel like the iPad is the most Apple-y device. And in my video, I actually refer to David Pogue's book, and this is common knowledge. A lot of people might know it, that Apple was working on a tablet before the iPhone. And it was because that the iPhones, or phones in general, started exploding in popularity that Apple chose to switch to focus on the phone and release that first. But the tablet was there first. And then in my video, I found, did you know what the Knowledge Navigator was?
Yes, Stephen.
I didn't know what this was. Okay.
Yeah.
And I saw it in the David Pogue book. And there's a video on YouTube. I included a clip in my video, and I linked to the full video. This was actually dreamt up by John Scully, who ousted Steve Jobs back in the day. But he wrote a book called The Odyssey. It was his memoir. And he talks about the Knowledge Navigator. And then there was a video made when he was speaking at some conference, and they played this video. And the Knowledge Navigator is like, it's an iPad. And it is a multi-touch device. He takes a video call on it. It's multi-touch. There's a voice assistant. Basically, like if you were talking to ChatGPT or Claude today as a voice assistant. And it just seems wild, like that thread from like, that was 1987 that video was released. Super old, super cheesy, but I think it's very salient for like the devices we see today and now with the rise of AI. And so, I don't know. I think the iPad is the most aptly device, but what do you take issue with that?
Okay. The issue I had with your video
Yes.
didn't have anything to do with the iPad. Although I don't think I agree with that. But I think AirPods are the most Apple device.
Sure.
Because they are the best manifestation of it just works. And that is the thing that makes an Apple device an Apple device. And I know you gave AirPods a different award, but which leads to my only qualm with
I gave it the It Just Works award.
Yeah, I know. But that is what makes something the most Apple-y device is that, anyway, those are the same award you should, but here's the beef I had with your entire video, which is simply, It felt a lot like high school seniors are like, let's just make up a bunch of awards so we can pick the 5 big categories of Apple devices and find an award for each of them. No, what I'm saying is it's like, iPad. What award should I give the iPad? What award should I give the AirPods? Because you had the Mac, the iPhone, the iPad, the AirPods. But
there were devices I didn't include too, like Apple Vision Pro.
Yeah, what award were you going to give the Vision Pro? Come on, there's no award. Least likely to succeed.
Like AirTag. I actually forgot the AirTag, and I should have maybe put that somewhere in the video because I do think that's another It Just Works product. And it's
I
like
think the AirTag is the most stalky. You get the award for the most stalky. No,
but it works really well. But
yeah, but the AirPods are by far the most. So I'm not quibbling overall, yes, all those. But I do think you did it. Okay, here's why. You picked categories instead of individual products.
Correct.
So like if you would have been like the iPhone 5S was the best ever whatever Apple product. Like to me, I get it. It's a short video. But if you want to explore why it didn't do as well as you thought it would, I'm just trying to give you I'm just kidding.
I see. Okay, you're probably right.
No.
I should have just made it about the iPad. Like this is his video is really excellent, and it's just about the iPad. And he goes really into depth. He talks about sales numbers. He has clips of the iPad launch. Side note, have you seen the iPad keynote recently? Like, did you see that clip in my video at all, or do you remember it?
Are you talking about the one where he sits down in the chair?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you remember what color the chair? Do you remember what color the chair was?
It's not brown?
So I literally said as I was recording the video, I remember him sitting down in the red chair. Because I remembered it as red for some reason. But it's definitely a black leather chair.
Okay.
And that was just like a weird like Mandela effect moment of like, I thought I remembered this keynote so clearly.
Well, he has sat in Kara Swisher's red chair on a couple of occasions.
That's what it is. The All Things D conference. Thank you. So it was Apple at 50. Read Jason's article. Yours is about Apple's best at version 2.
Yeah, well, I kept seeing people talk about like, here are the best Apple products. These are the ones we most fondly remember. The Verge even has like a ranker, which is kind of fun. You can go in and rank the different things. And the last time I checked, the things that were at the top of this were like original iPod, original iPhone. I get why people think those were not good products. Neither of them was very good.
So I went to their ranker, and you're shown 2 random Apple products, totally random, and you have to choose which is better. I got iPhone 5S and Apple Pay. What would you choose from those 2?
The iPhone, for sure.
The iPhone 5S? The
Better
iPhone
product
5S.
than Apple Pay?
Really?
I don't know. What do you don't think so?
The only difference between the
Not
iPhone 5S
the
and 5 was
5C, the 5S.
The 5S, the Touch ID was the big story with the 5S, but that was it. The 5 had the actual new form factor, the larger screen. The 6 is when we actually got bigger screens and Apple Pay. And Apple Pay has become like ubiquitous. Like it's become like how you could pay everywhere. I chose Apple Pay.
Yeah, it was anyway. But I just was like the MacBook Air, in general category, amazing. Original MacBook Air sucked. It was $1,800 and it had like one US. It's like not good. So my point was just like, Apple sees a vision, makes a product, and then they get it right on the second try.
Except AirTag. AirTag was right on the first try. They did it right.
Some of them are. Yeah, I mean, that's
are,
fair. Some of them are. AirPods were right the first time.
Right. But then, like I think I said in my video, AirPods 3 and AirPods Pro 2, those were like, all right, these things are great. You know,
I agree. But yeah, and I mean, Apple Silicon, the M1, they didn't need to wait to the M2 for the M1 to be good. But of course, they'd been making A-series chips for whatever, 10 years at that point. So they were pretty good. So my point was just like, there were, I mean, even, I didn't mention this in there, but even like the Apple One versus the Apple II, right? The Apple One was a hobbyist thing. Yeah. The Apple II was a product. I just was like, we so fondly remember some of these original things. The original iPhone compared to what came after it was not good.
Yeah. No,
right?
Edge.
It was Edge
data.
Yeah, it didn't have an app store.
Cellular data. No app store. No web apps. Steve Jobs said web apps.
They're going to be a thing. They're going to be a thing.
Can I tell you, it took me
And now today we live in a world where everything is web apps, Steven. It's so terrible, except for not on the iPhone.
That is funny. I remember I didn't have the original iPhone. Did you have the original iPhone?
Yeah, it's right.
Like, did you,
Steven? It's right.
But did you get it? Like, did you get it when it came out?
I got it in, I think, October or November, so a couple months later. Because it went on sale in like June or July, right?
But the original iPhone, it came out in June. But you used the original iPhone, and that was your phone.
That one right there is my phone. Yep, I think it's right there.
See, I did not. My first iPhone.
You want me to go get it? I'll show it to you.
No,
Hold on.
It's fine. Okay, go ahead. You can go.
I'm going to go get it. Hold on.
All right, you go get it. Yes, I'll unplug this. So he's not going to hear what I'm saying. And all I'm going to say is I cannot believe that Jason... No, I'm just kidding. Jason's camera's shaking like crazy.
What'd you say?
I said your camera's shaking like crazy. It's hilarious.
It's fine. Okay.
All right, hold up the
original iPhone right here.
Jealous. I am jealous.
There's a nice patina on the back there. Yes. I don't know why this particular spot is especially... It looks like a pair of eyes. But I mean, honestly, it's held up pretty well. My son, when we were showing him he's like, does the iPhone work? I'm like, I mean, it's got a cracked screen.
Does it connect? It probably won't connect to your Wi-Fi.
I definitely will not. And I have a 30-pin connector, but I don't have anything that would recognize this if I plugged it in, because I don't know that it would even mount into Finder. No. The battery is completely shot on this. So for the most part, no. He was like, because the conversation he wanted to have is like, you know how sometimes old tech is like really valuable and that kind of stuff? He's like, how much do you think this PowerBook is worth? I'm like, $0. The only person on the planet who cares about it is mine, and that's just because it's my original one. Right. And the same thing's true with this iPhone. If this was unopened, apparently people will pay $50,000 for it.
Well, MKBHD literally bought one a couple of years ago, and it was $30,000, and he unboxed it. That's a video. But I did not have the original iPhone. Still don't. The iPhone 4 was my first one. I had the original iPod Touch. I got the iPod Touch Christmas of that year. One, because I was on Sprint. Two, because I was in college. Didn't have the money for an iPhone. I wish I would have just gotten it anyways. But anyway, I had a friend with the iPhone, and I was super jealous. But the original iPod Touch... I had that, and I remember it took me forever to figure out how to do a web app. Like, I didn't know what a web app was. And I remember I would, like, go to apple.com, and it would say, like, web apps. And I'm like, okay, how? Where do I get them? And I don't remember if it was that first year or shortly after, but I did jailbreak my iPod Touch several times. And I downloaded, like, the Cydia store and got random apps that you weren't supposed to get. But, yeah, web apps. I still have my original iPod Touch for what it's worth. And it does still turn on. It doesn't connect to Wi-Fi because it has like Wi-Fi B or whatever.
Yeah.
It doesn't, can't broadcast on it, but I saw that. All right. We got to talk about the Mac Pro being discontinued. I want to talk about our little histories with the Mac Pro. But before we do, I want to thank our friends. And this is a new sponsor. Excited for this. I want to thank our friends at Granola. Granola is the way where you can take notes, have AI do all the summary for you, and it's your AI-powered notepad built for the way real people actually meet. Now, I have to do meetings on all the different platforms, WebEx, Google Meet, Zoom. I have to do all of it. And, what tools are actually built into the platforms can be confusing. Which ones do I choose? Does it work? Well, you don't have to think about that because Granola is securely going to transcribe your meeting and then turns everything into a clean, structured, actually useful notes when the meeting ends. And Granola works through your device's audio. You don't have to worry about what software you're using for meeting. And that means you can integrate seamlessly into the video conferencing tools you already use. No setup, no awkward bots. It's just your normal meeting with superpowers. And you can actually listen instead of frantically typing every word and still walk away knowing exactly what was decided, who's doing what, and what comes next. I have to tell you, like back in 2020, we were all doing a lot of virtual meetings. I so wish I had a tool like Granola to be able to do all of that. It's a great app. When you go to the website, you just download the Mac app right there from the homepage. That's how you know it's a good one. So if meetings are eating up your day, Granola is a no-brainer. That's their tagline. That's pretty good. You could try it totally free for 3 months. Just head to granola.ai/primary. granola.ai/primary to get your time back and get 3 months free at granola.ai/primary. Our thanks to Granola for sponsoring this episode and our friends at Framer. Look at that. We got our own little nice landing page with primary technology, real big right there at the top, which is awesome. So go to framer.com/primary. But what Framer is, it's a website builder, but this is not like the website builders you know. And I've used lots of website builders before. A lot of them can be difficult to use, especially if you're trying to collaborate with your team. But Framer is a website that will help your business grow, not slow it down. If updates to your website feel harder than it should and harder for your team, Framer is the shortcut you're looking for. It's a website builder that turns .coms from a formality into a tool for growth. It's a website builder that works with your team's favorite design tool, and it has real-time collaboration, which is wild. That was the thing I couldn't even dream of years ago when I first started making websites. Has a robust CMS with everything you need for great SEO and advanced analytics that include integrated A/B testing. That's right. You can A/B test your website, A/B test a homepage. What actually leads to more conversions, leads to more people actually clicking and signing up for your form or buying your product. And changes to your Framer site go live to the web in seconds with one click. You could publish without help from engineering, helping your team reduce dependencies and reach escape velocity. It's funny, escape velocity. Just watched Shuttle launch yesterday. Framer is an enterprise solution with premium hosting, enterprise-grade security, 99.99% uptime SLAs. And whether you want to launch a new site, test a few landing pages, or migrate your full .com, Framer has programs for startups, scale-ups, and large enterprises to make going from idea to live site as easy and fast as possible. So learn how you can get more out of your .com from a Framer specialist or get started building for free today at framer.com/primary for 30% off a Framer Pro annual plan. That's framer.com/primary for 30% off. The link is also in the episode description below. You can click it there. Framer.com/primary. Rules and restrictions may apply. Our thanks to Framer for sponsoring this episode. Now, right as we were done recording, and I believe it was Apple timed this specifically for after the Accidental Tech Podcast episode dropped. They announced in a statement, you know what I mean? It came out right after that, suspiciously. But they actually gave the statement to 9 to 5 Mac that the Mac Pro is officially dead. It's gone. I'm not going to make it anymore. Apple's like, don't wait for an update. Don't wait for anything. The Mac Pro is over. And the last Mac Pro, the one that they were still selling up till, I guess it was last Thursday morning, which you can't buy it anymore. It's not on the website. They have some refurb Mac Pros. But it was still the M2 Ultra, which was a slower chip than you could get in the Mac Studio. You can get an M3 Ultra in the Mac Studio now. But it's gone. No more is the Mac Pro. And I don't know. I have some experience with the Mac Pro. Did you ever own a Mac Pro personally?
No. Why would I own a Mac Pro? I did have a Power Mac G5, which is the closest thing to the Mac Pro I ever owned. It's not the same thing. This isn't sad though.
It's
sad for like 5 people. This is not a product.
And John Syracuse.
He's one of the 5. He's actually most of the 5.
He's most of the.
This is like I really don't understand why there's a product that does this. It's the Mac Studio. You have it sitting on your desk at home. Like, I don't understand why anyone cares about this. And John Syracuse, no offense, but he only cares about this because he wants to play Windows games on his Mac. And he could put a GPU, a third-party GPU in the Intel one, and Apple's never going to allow that to happen. And now that we're in the Apple Silicon age, the Mac Studio is legitimately I think one of his things was like, and again, like, far be it for me to begrudge someone else, a man who wants his computer. That's fine. But like, if the thing you want is the greatest, most powerful computer you can buy, the M3 Ultra Mac Studio is that. Like, I don't know, why do you need it to say Pro on it?
Well, I don't know if you listened to the last ATP, which I
It
did.
came out like yesterday, right?
Well, I was listening to it as I was waiting for the shuttle to launch. But as John Syracuse says in that episode, the thermal ceiling for the Mac Studio, just by the nature of how big the case is and being enclosed in there, is obviously limited, as opposed to the Mac Pro, where if Apple chose to, and they're choosing not to because it's just not worth it for them. If Apple chose to make an even more powerful chip than the Ultra, if it was possible, all the silicon processes aside, then they would need a case that would be able to move more air because thermal-wise, the Mac Pro would get better performance because of that thermal ceiling as opposed to something like the Mac Studio, which is a little box, and it's going to get hot. And while it does have good cooling, it is, it's not the Mac Pro. It's not going to have the same cooling power.
Yeah, but
that's why.
Okay. Again, so what? Like, I don't understand why is the M3 Ultra being held back by something that we need? Like, is there some reason?
No.
I mean, they're going to make
that's the thing.
They're going to make an M5 Ultra probably. I know, but what I'm saying is what more? Like, what would people want to do? Are we gene sequencing? Is that the? I mean, I'm trying to think of the use cases that actually anyone cares about. Local LLM training, fine.
Well, local LLMs, and this was the point Syracuse makes on the episode, is like we're actually in a time now where the local AIs will use as much computing power that you are willing to throw at it, which is something that, gaming was probably the use case that would use the most GPU, CPU, and just like use all the resources as possible. And now we have like local AIs, and Apple actually sent a bunch of YouTubers a stack of 4 Mac Studios in like a rack, and they were running local models on this Mac Studio array. And it's like, yeah, okay, you can do a Mac Studio array, but imagine if you could have a Mac Pro that has like infinite RAM or whatever, and be able to do that. So I think the point Syracuse makes, which I think is salient, is that there is a space where a Mac Pro could do something more than the Mac Studio. Apple just didn't make that Mac Pro. Apple didn't make the Mac Pro. Maybe it's because they can't make a chip bigger than the Ultra, or that they can't, stack the chips or whatever. Like, I don't know. Can you put 5 M3 Ultra chips in one case and then have it work like a computer, or do you have to do like this weird tower thing with the Mac Studios? I don't know. But
I just don't think Apple cares about making a computer or a chip for 100,000 people. And it's not going to be even that. They just don't care. It's just not. There's not because anybody who like training LLM models is not a thing you need to be doing locally, right? Like there is a really good resource for that. It's called Infinity in the Cloud, right? Like it's like the most powerful computing that we have access to. I wrote a whole article about this. You have the access to the greatest computing in the entire world from the MacBook Neo.
Yes, the cloud computing. I will just mention, I want to go down a little bit of memory lane of my experience with the Mac Pro. And I was working in a place where our use case was we had to ingest 2 streams of HD video, recording both streams in sync, video and audio, and be able to play back those 2 channels of video and audio in real time. So we needed a computer that had 4 video channels, 2 in and 2 out, and a computer powerful enough to do that. Now, sure, the Mac Studio today would be powerful enough to do that. Like, it has the horsepower to do it. But what I'm showing right now, and I will put a link in the show notes, even if it's not chapter artwork, and if you see the domain Oak Tree Pixels, just know it's mine. I'm hosting the pictures. I'm putting those on my Cloud R2 bucket. Anyway, we had a 2009 Mac Pro, which is on the right, and that was actually an incredibly good machine because it never failed. We did this multiple times every weekend, and it would record. But how we got those video signals in there, as you will see here, were these specialized PCI cards. And these cables that are going to the cards, that's actually SDI video. It's not the typical SDI connector, which looks kind of like a weird coax, the SDI connector. These are kind of like specialized SDI, whatever. But you'll see there's 4 of those cables going into that card and out. Now, if you were to do this today with a Mac Studio, it would take a Thunderbolt capture card or whatever. And I don't even know, you could get an enclosure probably, like a PCIe enclosure, but that is also introducing a point of failure, namely the Thunderbolt cable, Thunderbolt ports, all of that. And you could argue that the PCIe slot was actually a point of failure for this. But for our use case, and this was in 2019, and we actually bought the 2019 Mac Pro, you'll see it there on the right, alongside the older Mac Pro, it was the perfect device for this use case, and having that video card with the specialized connectors and be able to like just put that into the computer, screw it in, it's like part of the machine now, and then run the video server that we needed every week. So for the Mac Pro, it was really useful for that, and I enjoyed using it. I got to use the 2019 Mac Pro for a couple of years in this configuration, but it was great for that. And while you could probably still do this use case with the Mac Studio, it was really nice, convenient, and maybe more reliable to do it with the kind of PCI card slot that we used to use. So that's all.
I don't know that it's more reliable or more convenient in any way nowadays. I mean, Blackmagic literally has built an entire business on doing this exact thing with Thunderbolt. Like you just plug a Thunderbolt port into one of these things. You can actually do this on a Mac Mini now better than the Mac.
Well, power-wise, for sure. And the Thunderbolt, as in situations like we were in, I was always just trying to eliminate points of failure and increase redundancy. That's why we literally had two Mac Pros sitting next to each other. Those two Mac Pros literally did the same exact thing every week, and one was a fallback. So if the one Mac Pro ever like froze, and that would be very disruptive in our situation, then we would switch to the other Mac Pro. So it was all about raising redundancy, lowering points of failure. And yeah, Thunderbolt would probably be good, but then I don't know. I guess the only reason you
need the expansion slots is for fast I/O. It's still same number of points of failure, literally the same. You just had a third-party card going into a PCI slot instead of a third-party box going into a Thunderbolt.
Yeah, I would say the cable I would say it's one less point of failure. Thunderbolt cable and Thunderbolt ports versus PCI slot. You know what I mean? Sure. Thank you. Jason agreed, so we'll move on. I don't want to. If I say more, they'll disagree again. But anyway, that was my experience with the Mac Pro. I would never buy a Mac Pro. I just don't
think the Mac Pro is sad that it's going away. I just don't think it's sad, and I don't think it says anything about it, how much Apple cares about high-end computing. The Mac Studio is just, for the market that they see, the Mac Studio is just more than capable of doing that.
100%. And I would say it's not sad. It's not sad for me. I was never going to buy a Mac Pro anyways. I never had any desire to. Although, now that now it's discontinued, there's a bunch on the refurb market. And I'm like, wait a minute.
No,
if I want to run a local LLM, should I?
Well, you still can't do that on the Mac Pro.
Why?
Because you can, do they have? I don't think you can expand the RAM.
Well, if you get one that had a lot of RAM, the M2 Ultra series.
All right.
I'm not going
to use Mac Studio. You can get one of those with 512 megs or gigs of RAM.
Well, if you try to get one now, delivery time is August.
No, I said a used one.
But yeah, used one. Yeah. But anyway, no, I would never buy a Mac Pro. It's not really sad, but kind of sad. Also, I was sad when the Xserve got discontinued, but that's no one else cares about that. Half the people, leave us a 5-star rating and review if you even know what the Xserve is, because I did use one for a while, and it was pretty fun. All right, let's do a kind of a lightning round. You know you can talk to ChatGPT and CarPlay now? Do you know that?
I don't understand why all of these sure. I don't know why all these CarPlay, it's fine.
ChatGPT was updated, and in iOS 26.4, CarPlay now allows you to talk to chatbots in the CarPlay interface. So if you just want to chat to ChatGPT, maybe Gemini will add this soon too, but yeah, you just talk to it. That's it. Great.
Now I really hope that Tesla adds CarPlay.
Did you? I'm still waiting for that update. Every time an update comes, I'm like, CarPlay? But no, radio silence.
No.
I don't think it's going to. Anyway, we'll see if it happens. Also, this was huge news. So there was a massive Claude Code leak. I don't know why I couldn't say that. A bunch of Anthropic's code got leaked all over the internet. They shut down a bunch of GitHub repos as they were trying to contain the leak. Lots of people dove into the code. Some people reverse engineered it. It was discovered that Anthropic is trying to build a Tamagotchi-style pet and an always-on agent into Claude, which, okay. Side note, I did use Dispatch. I'm using Dispatch more, and it's pretty cool. Also, have you ever used Dispatch with Claude?
Isn't that where you can send messages from your phone or whatever?
You can send a message from your phone and then have your computer do stuff. The problem is it doesn't talk back to you, so I never know like what it's doing. It'll say like red, like it'll give you like a red receipt, but then like I don't know what it's doing. So it's like
you get home and it's just changed all your smart locks and you're
like, wait a minute, how did you change this lock? You're a computer. But anyway, so yeah, there was this massive leak, and they've supposedly contained it now. But someone, who did you see? You said someone reverse engineered.
I don't know. I saw somebody on Threads who was like, "Hey, I created, they can't take this one down because I redid whatever, reverse engineered it, and I don't know. It's just, who knows if that's even true. It's just, this is mostly bad, not because people can run Claude on their own, but because of what it reveals about their internal plans for not released features. This is a competitive issue for them much more than it is an actual product issue, I believe.
Did you ever have a Tamagotchi? That's the real question.
I did not.
Okay, very good. Studio Display XDR.
I do know what it is, but no, I've never had one.
Okay, very good. I did have one. I'll just say that. So the Studio Display XDR, the VESA mount option, which is the one I bought the moment it went on sale and got it on March 11th on release day, Apple dropped the price by $400 on their 50th birthday on April 1st. And I tweeted, as you do, hey, wait a minute. $400, can I get that back? And it was out of the return window if you bought it on launch day, so there was no returning and getting it back. But I reached out to Apple support. They told me to contact a store specialist, so they gave me a little bit of runaround. But then they confirmed that I would be getting a refund for the $400. And then I got an email late last night, official from Apple, that said, due to the change in price, you're going to get a refund of $400. So, hey, XDR VESA mount actually got a little cheaper. And B, I posted a screenshot of the text message chain between me and the store specialist where they confirmed that I would be getting the refund. And it seemed like a canned message, like maybe they were ready to send this to a bunch of people. And also wasn't great grammatically. We'll just say that.
It's bad. Copywriting is an important thing. I do think this is weird, although it's not the first time this has happened. Didn't this happen with the original iPhone? Where like they sold it and then they lowered the price by $200 like a couple months later. And I don't remember if they gave people a refund or if they gave them an Apple gift card, or I can't remember exactly the details. But I definitely bought mine after the price got cheaper because my wife definitely wasn't going to let me buy one until they got cheaper. So I had to wait.
I think it was like $800 when it came out, and then it went down to $600.
Something maybe like that. It was like a $200 price difference or something. And remember, the original iPhone was not subsidized at all, so you had to pay full price out of pocket for that thing. So yeah, it was this. I think I had sent, you told me that you sent me that text chain, and I'm like, I really hope you actually get an email. I hope this doesn't become a thing where either people have to ask for a refund in order to get a refund, or almost just as bad that Apple just gives a bunch of people $400 and they don't know why. Like, I feel like you have to say something. You have to explain to people. I mean, people would be like chill that they got $400. That's like really nice. But like, you have to acknowledge that you did a thing. We made the price. And it kind of makes you wonder, Stephen, do you think that this was just an accident in the first place, that it was supposed to be $400 cheaper? Because I don't imagine, like, you think this through. What happened? They released the product. They were the same price, whether you had the tilt adjustable stand or the VESA mount. And that didn't make any sense because you were getting less product with the VESA mount version. So it was weird that they were the same price. But then at some point the price changed and it got cheaper. And I don't think it was you, Steven, complaining that the price was the same that did it. No, like who?
I know, that wasn't me.
Were there like mass enterprises that are like, we would love to buy these, but it's kind of weird that we got to pay the same price when we don't get a stand? And then they're suddenly like, there's enough people. But really, does Apple, like, who was buying that many of these to make a big deal? I can't imagine like it was 5. I don't know. These kind of things are weird. Like, what made them lower the price? If people were complaining enough about it, that's like significant that Apple responded in that way. But also, I almost feel like maybe it was like a mistake and it was supposed to be cheaper to begin with, and they just didn't, because they also retconned the press release, right? It says tilt adjustable version starts at $3,200. It did not say anything, and I'm not saying they edited it like to be deceitful or anything like that. I'm just saying it doesn't say anything about the VESA mount version being cheaper in the newsroom post.
Right. That is interesting. So the email that I got from Apple last night, it says, Apple recently lowered the price of the Studio Display XDR VESA mount adapter configuration you ordered. We are pleased to inform you that we will provide you with a full refund for the difference between the price you paid and the new lower price. So I'm trying to go back. I do not think that the first Studio Display, which was $1,600, I don't think that the VESA mount was cheaper. I feel like it was the same price.
On the original one, you're saying?
Yeah, and I just found it. It was. I paid $1,600 for the original Studio Display, which was not cheaper than the regular. Like the regular Studio Display with the regular stand was also $1,600. And maybe it was because it was just cheaper overall. And so a $400 difference then would have cut into the margins too much. And that was just the cheapest they wanted to put the Studio Display. But it does feel like if it was a mistake, that feels like, how do you make that kind of mistake? And but B, maybe it was just like on the order page, like the configurator. Maybe like some web developer didn't make the price adjustment for the VESA mount. Like when someone clicked the VESA mount configuration, maybe it was that. But it is very strange.
And
so, I don't know.
Also, they didn't change the price on the base one, only on the XDR. You don't get $400 back if you bought the VESA mount. Just the normal Studio Display.
The margins. They don't want to give those margins on the base model, which is kind of crazy.
It's the same stand.
I know it's the same stand. That's what. Well, no. The
tilt
XDR,
and height adjustable is $400. Okay, just to be clear.
Yeah.
The tilt and height adjustable stand is $400 more, and it was before. But the tilt adjustable stand and the VESA mount adapter are the same price.
But the tilt for the regular, like the non-XDR version,
right? Because there's no tilt adjustable. There's no tilt adjustable only for the XDR. There's only height adjustable and VESA mount. So this makes me think it was a mistake because on the non-XDR version, the tilt and height adjustable stand is $400 more than either the tilt only, which is just like the basic stand, or the VESA mount. So the price is already different on that one, and I wonder if they just messed it up on the XDR. I think that that's what happened.
Well, there is. So I'm sorry. It is. The tilt adjustable stand for the regular Studio Display is $1,600. Tilt and height adjustable is $2,000. So it's a $400 difference. Like
so that's what I'm saying. Yes.
The XDR does not have an option for just the tilt adjustable.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is that there's a different set of stands, and I think that because they didn't do it the correct way, they just messed up the pricing, right? Because the VESA mount should be the same price as the tilt adjustable stand because that's a cheap stand.
Without the height, right. And they didn't offer that as an option on the XDR.
Yes, and so they started charging the same price, and I think somebody just didn't pay enough attention to be like, but also it's weird that they didn't say like this device starts at 28. I mean, think about the easy win they could have taken. This device
because honestly, the XDR feels like a much better deal now.
Yeah, but also the baseline price that they are promoting for the non-XDR version is the price with the tilt adjustable stand or the VESA mount, $1,599. The baseline price they're promoting for the XDR is with the tilt and height adjustable stand, and it's $400 more. It's like you could have promoted this as a $2,899 product.
Sub 3,000.
So I think it was just a mistake.
Yeah, I think it was a mistake. That's it, but that's a weird mistake. Maybe they had too much prep into the 50th anniversary concerts everywhere. So they missed it. All
the people that were checking the website were too busy negotiating, the rider with Alicia Keys or whatever.
That's what it was. I need just blue M&Ms in my green room. Just blue.
And they're like, it's at Grand Central Terminal. There's not actually going to be a green room. You can use one of the workbenches where the geniuses take apart the iPhones. That's your green room.
Yeah. All right. Also, AirPods Max 2 are officially out. Reviews came out March 31st. And a lot of people were like, hey, the noise canceling is better. Transparency is better. Still sound largely the same. Still same design, same weird case, but those are out there. Mine were actually delivered yesterday as I was watching the rocket go up into space. That's when the FedEx arrived. So I'm going to check them out when I get back. I don't know if I'll keep them. We'll see. I'm testing the clamping strength again because when I would wear them for long periods, it would clamp my head too much. But we'll see. Yeah. AirPods Max.
I don't know why you bought these.
Honestly, I don't know. I assumed because I was going to make a review video, but now I'm like, I don't know if I'm going to. We'll see. I'll at least post about them. Tech Radar did have an interesting interview with the team from Apple talking about the actual engineering behind the second generation to actually make it better, sound better, better ANC. So I'll put a link to the Tech Radar article in the show notes. And also, lightning round, SpaceX has filed confidentially for IPO, possibly 1.75 trillion. How do you file confidentially for an IPO, public offering? How does that happen?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not an investing person, but there's like they can file their statement 15 days before the shares become available to the public, allowing it to get like private feedback. So, I don't know exactly all the details, but yeah.
That's pretty high valuation though, right? Like for a company just hitting the stock market.
Yeah, also now they've combined with X and XAI, so like
right,
it's like
exactly,
3 companies in one.
That's right. It's like 3 people in a trench coat pretending to be one. Gmail has added a feature where now you can change your username. So if you created your Gmail back in high school or college or whatever, and you chose something like, I don't know, Cupcake King 375, and you've been living with that Gmail address forever, you can now change it. You can change the part before at gmail.com. Your original or old email will still go to that same inbox. It'll be set up as like an alias, but now you can change it to whatever you want now. You could do something boring,
Well, hold on.
Oh, what?
Not whatever you want, Steven.
Well, whatever's available.
Do you think there's anything available better than Hot Dog Cupcake Ladies 4117? Like, come on. There's literally nothing. No one is changing their Gmail unless what you really wanted is I had Steven Robles and now I wanted the funny podcast guy or what. I mean, even that's probably taken. Like, there is no chance. There's zero chance that this is a useful thing. This is like Google gets to talk about a thing that they're doing and woohoo, yeah, you get to change your goofy thing. But come on.
I will say I've created Gmail accounts for my kids as they have needed to log into different things. And I was able to get my kids' names. They have normal Gmail, like just their names. And maybe it's because Robles is not like super common or whatever, but I got them.
I'm just saying there's a pretty good chance that the reason you have the weird Gmail name to begin with is that you couldn't get the one that you really wanted in the first place, and it's not suddenly available. I do think they should make defunct ones re-available for people.
Yeah, I agree. I think you should change your...
If this hasn't been used in 10 years, it's fair game.
Listen, I think Jason's upset because he doesn't want to change his Gmail address, which is actually Cupcake King 379.
See, now I'm going to
at gmail.com.
I'm going to get so much email.
That goes directly to Jason.
So much. Actually, please send me all your thoughts at whatever Steven just said. 100%.
Whoever, if that's a legit
don't be
email
mad
address,
if I don't respond, please.
I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Whoever actually has that email address. If that actually is the thing.
If that's actually your email address, I got to be honest, I'm not sorry. Not even a little.
All right, Meta. This is something Jason's going to start paying for. I already know. Meta is actually testing out a premium subscription, more than just the Meta Verified, which is like $15 a month already. This is a premium subscription where you can do things like hide if you see people's stories. People won't be able to see that you saw their story. Or you'll be able to see if people look at your stories more than once. And you can extend your story for an extra 24 hours and choose to spotlight a story for up to once a week. And there's also things like super likes. They're testing this in Mexico, Japan, and the Philippines. May roll out worldwide. It's approximately $2 a month. So maybe this is different than Meta Verified. Like you probably would do Meta Verified and this if you wanted these features. But yeah, interesting. I am curious if people would actually want to know, like, do people look at my story more than once, or they want to hide their story views from other people?
Okay, I have 2 thoughts on this. I'm going to give them to you both, Steven.
Okay, both.
First of all, apparently Instagram is now a dating app because that's the only reason I can think of that you'd want to watch someone's story more than once without them knowing, or look at someone's story with it. Like this is really creepy when you start to think about what they're empowering you to do with money. And secondly, they just lost a case. They just lost a case that said that they designed a product to become more addictive, especially for teenagers. And now they're rolling out a bunch of features that are just more gamification of these features. And it's like, now you can see someone's story and they won't know. Why would you want to do that? Think about that, Steven. Why would they? There's literally I can't think of a single legit. Not that the reasons are illegitimate, but none of them are wholesome. Like there's no wholesome reasons that you're like, right. I want to see this person's stories and I don't want them to know that I looked at them, or I want to know that someone looked at my story more than once. Yeah, none of the reasons for that are just normal. This is healthy. Purely engagement bait.
Yeah. It's not mental health. It's not positive. Not mental health.
This is what happens when your like bonus is dependent on engagement.
Yeah. Oof, that's tough. Anyway. So that's weird. Grubhub and Uber Eats, you can now order with Amazon's assistant in natural language, even doing things like changing orders midway or adding stuff. I don't know. Is this going to be a thing? Like, are we ever actually going to just talk to voice assistants to order food to deliver?
We're a long way away from that, I think.
You have the Google Nest, right? You don't have the Amazon stuff. Because, yeah, you need the Amazon stuff for this. If you're out there and you have an Alexa Plus Echo, what even device is this? Is that a... I already signed into the Verge. Verge? Why do you keep doing this to me? I subscribed to the Verge, and I thought I signed in like twice. And then every time... Anyway, sorry. I was just... the little banner came up as we were recording. So, anyway, if you have an Amazon voice assistant device with Alexa Plus... let us know. Can you order Uber Eats and Grubhub, and is it actually working? Is it actually good? Do I have to buy an Echo Show to try this? I don't know.
I don't even know. You please, Steven, don't order an Echo Show. You're still waiting for the burger you ordered with your Rabbit R1. Please
it is.
Don't buy another device. It'd be so much easier to just go to the place and get the food. Like, come on. Also, I kind of feel like there are not even a lot of human beings I would ask to go and order me food. Right? Like, I would not be like, hey, friend,
it's a trust issue.
Could you just order me something? Well, no, like, think about that. Like, maybe I'm just, on the other hand, my family is totally fine. We walk into a restaurant and I just make them go sit down. Like, if it's like a fast food restaurant, I just make them, when we're traveling, go sit down.
Say, I'll handle it.
I know exactly what they all want. That's different, though. I have zero confidence that any device made by any of these manufacturers knows exactly what we all want. No way. It's not possible. There are some things that human beings are just better at.
I will say I did the whole Gemini task automation, and it was able to customize my Starbucks order to my liking with blonde espresso.
A Starbucks order, though, is a pretty fine. Is like we're just talking about numbers of variables here.
Well, that's what it is ordering from Grubhub and Uber Eats. The restaurants only put like a specific number of things on there.
Have you used either of those apps lately?
Yeah, I used.
Every question is like, also, do you want this? Also, how about this? Would you like us to also stop on the way home at Safeway and pick you up some antacid because this is going to hurt?
Well, they try to double dash you, but you know, like it's not like talking to a waiter at a restaurant. You can't be like, can you put like not as many onions or whatever. Like you can leave notes usually when you order from DoorDash and Uber Eats, but it's not like infinite variables. Like it's set.
I think, okay, you're right. It's not infinite. I think anything over a certain number, though, might as well just be infinite when you're coming to having a voice assistant order for you.
Yeah. Well, we'll see. Let us know. If you have Alexa Plus, try and order. We'll see. We'll see how it works. All right. Last thing before we get to our personal tech. Your favorite airline. Well, you've interviewed the CEO multiple times.
That makes them my favorite, apparently.
That's your favorite airline.
It's also the one I fly on most of the time.
Is it, right. It's your frequent flyer. So they're tapping Amazon. So what is it? United has Starlink?
United has Starlink, and I think JetBlue also has Starlink. And I think Starlink is just going to become, for most, like it's going to become table stakes. You get on an airline, people are going to start making a decision about flying based on, does this thing have Starlink? Now, you can have all the feelings you want about SpaceX and Starlink, whatever, but it is like the top tier internet experience when you're at 36,000 feet or whatever. And Delta is not tapping Starlink. They are going to go with Amazon Leo, which is their service instead. And Delta was like the first one to roll out free Wi-Fi for its SkyMiles members, and they switched over to much faster Wi-Fi when they did that. Because if you're going to make it free for people, you have to have better bandwidth and better speeds in order to make that sustainable, because people don't have to pay $30 for a flight. So a lot more people are going to use it. So I do think it's interesting they're not going with Starlink. I haven't had a chance to talk to anybody about this. They did send me this information, and I had not had a chance to like write about it or anything. But I do just think it's very interesting that instead of using Starlink, which I think is like going to be the default for most people, They went with Amazon. I don't know. I don't know what the differentiating factor for them is. If it's just we got a better price. I don't know. We'll see.
Right. Do you think it will be not as good a service as Starlink?
I don't know that that's necessarily the case. I think Starlink has a big head start, but this is Amazon. Amazon has its own constellation as well. So,
right. Do they have their own satellites up there?
oh yeah, both of them. Starlink and Amazon have their own constellations of satellites.
That's wild. That's wild. Yeah, if you ever see like the diagrams of all the satellites just orbiting Earth, it's pretty wild. All right, personal tech, because it's Apple's 50th. I want to know, Jason, I don't know if we've asked each other this. What do you do with your Apple boxes?
I tried to look this up. No, Steven, I tried to look this up, but we don't have a good way to search our old transcripts. But we have talked about this at least twice. I think we talked about talking about it last week because we've talked about it at least once on this podcast and at least once on a different podcast. So I save a lot of Apple boxes, but that's because I have a lot of Apple products that are not mine, and I cannot send them to you listeners. Don't ask me for them. I don't have a Studio Display XDR. You got to talk to Steven about that. Maybe he's feeling generous because he just got $400 back. I don't know. But so I have a closet full of boxes for devices I have to send back.
But the boxes that you buy,
I'm getting to that.
Okay.
For the stuff that we buy, I save the boxes for all the computers and the iPads. I don't save all the boxes for the phones.
Why do you save those boxes?
Because those devices may get either handed down or sold.
But in either of those instances, do you need the box?
If I'm going to sell it, people care much more about having the box.
Okay. And you sell it on like Facebook Marketplace or whatever?
I haven't done it very often, but if I'm going to, then or even if I'm going to give it to somebody, it's nice to give them the box.
Okay. So you keep a lot of the boxes. Okay. I guess I don't know if we talked about this. I have one box that is kind of like I keep seeing it every day. I see it every day because I didn't know where to put it. And it is my Apple Vision Pro box. And like, I don't want to get rid of it because it's like the original Apple Vision Pro box, but it is a huge box.
Yeah.
and I don't know because you didn't buy a Vision Pro, right? You just had, okay. So do you have any like really large boxes for Apple devices that you're like, man, I should really get rid of this thing?
I have like IMAX studio displays. Yeah.
But you want, just in case you sell it, you want to keep it.
Well, most of the studio displays I have to send back.
Well, yeah, but that's not, yeah, okay. Well, I discovered I have my original 12-inch G4 PowerBook box, and I posted that online because I'm looking for the serial code, or I'm asking the internet to try and find that exact computer for me. But I'm going to keep that box forever because that was my original Mac. Even if I don't have the Mac, I have the box. But I'm keeping my Apple Vision Pro box. I don't have the Apple Watch box, but I have the Apple Watch, like the original Apple Watch box in the box. It came with this like white plastic like thing because I got the steel version. That's pretty nice. So I'm keeping that. And I just don't know. I do have my Studio Display XDR box in the garage right now, which is really big, and I don't know, like, I'm probably gonna get rid of that because it just takes up so much space, the boxes.
Yeah, the boxes do take up a lot of space, and it's not worth keeping most of them. I do have a lot. So my answer is like complicated only because I have a lot of boxes, not because I want to keep them, because they go to products I have to get rid of, right?
Yeah.
But then I do keep generally boxes for Macs and iPads,
right? And
not for most of the other things. I do have like I have an original Apple TV, right? So that's sitting there. I have like the big
like
white
the old,
one.
like the original
Like
Apple
one, and that's still in its box. Yeah. Oh yeah. I thought I sent you a picture of that before. Maybe not. I don't know. I have some of those boxes that have a tiny bit of like maybe nostalgic value to them.
Sure. That original Apple TV, you could like download movies to it, right?
Yeah, it had a hard drive in it. Yeah, well, I still have hard drives in them, but you could actually put stuff on it. Yep.
That I'm glad we got to this. That is something I wish I could do with a newer Apple TV, which is to pay for or whatever like local download a movie to have less artifacting and bitrate issues with the quality of the movie. And so that is something that I would pay extra for, like Apple TV 4K Pro or whatever, and have like a terabyte. Well, they probably wouldn't do this now with SSD prices, but like put a terabyte SSD in there so I could download certain movies A, I mean, just so you don't have to use your internet connection, but B, like to actually have a higher quality movie. You know, if you rip a Blu-ray, it's like 50 gigs. And so maybe that's not feasible, but it would be nice to have. Because now that I have my nice OLED TV, which is really nice, I do enjoy looking at it. Sometimes I stream something and I'm like, man, would this look better with a Blu-ray? Like, should I stick a Blu-ray in here and see what that looks like? So anyway, that's my only thought.
I sent you a picture of, I think, the box.
I will make this the chapter art, but I'll also link it in the show notes so everybody can see it. That's pretty cool, that original Apple TV box. That's pretty sweet. All right, I want to talk about this the shuttle launch. So we're going to go record a bonus episode. Remember, you can listen to our bonus episodes, get ad-free version, get the pre-show, get Primary Tech Daily, all of it. If you support the show at join.primarytech.fm, if you click the link in the show notes, the top link, you can support. It'll automatically apply the promo code, which is $25 a year, $2.50 a month, 30-day free trial. Thank you to everyone who signed up for that in the last week. And that's going to be keep on going forever. We're not going to keep talking about the discount because, you know, if people want to pay $5 a month or whatever, like, you can do it. But if you're listening right now, you can get that deal. You can watch us on YouTube. We would appreciate a 5-star rating and review in Apple Podcasts. Let us know, do you keep your Apple boxes? Do you not? We'd love to hear about it. And we're going to talk about the Artemis II launch in our bonus episode, which members here. Thank you for watching. Thank you.
Also, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but if you left us a review in the past, and for whatever reason you didn't leave us 5 stars, changing that is a thing you can do. Just want to say that.
That is absolutely true. That is absolutely true. And remember, chapters, well, if you got to this point of the episode, you didn't need chapters, or you already discovered it because it's the end of the episode. All right, we're going to go record a bonus episode. Thanks for listening. Thanks for watching. We'll catch you next time.